Retired General Michael Hayden was a key figure in the U.S. national security apparatus for decades. Hayden served as the head of the NSA from 1999 to 2005 and as the director of the CIA from 2006 to 2009. More recently, he has defended the CIA against allegations of torture made in the Senate Select Committee report published in December. The Real News sat down with Hayden at the George W. Bush Presidential Conference at Hofstra University. We started by asking him if the war on terror has made the world a safer place.
We've actually made ourselves safer against the kind of threat we saw on September 11th. That's the mass casualty attack, complex in its organization, against an iconic target. Right? It's going to be very difficult for any enemy of the United States to do that.
We asked prominent human rights attorney Michael Ratner for his response.
I mean, the U.S. has actually, essentially thrown gasoline on a fire. A group like Al Qaeda, which may have numbered 400 or under, has now probably spawned up to thousands, tens of thousands, no longer just called Al Qaeda, but called by various names, whether it's Al Qaeda on the Arabian Peninsula or ISIS or other, quote, terrorist groups around the world. So I think we're probably in the least safe period we've been in since 9/11, and the world's become a much scarier place. That's all not because just surveillance. Of course, it's the way surveillance, it's the way Muslims are treated on the streets of New York and around the world. It's Guantanamo, it's torture, and it's, of course, war, and particularly the Iraq War, which just tore the world apart.
We also questioned Hayden about the Senate Intelligence Committee report on torture.
All right, I don't know what I read about this. This happened well before I became director. That's one fact.
The fact that he said, I wasn't in charge of the agency, et cetera, when they were doing some of the worst of the techniques, waterboarding, is again disingenuous because he has become, since the Senate torture report has come out, which talked about the 119 people who were waterboarded, tortured, et cetera, in secret sites, he has been the major defender of the agency and going against the torture report from the Senate.
We then asked him about recent statements he made on CNN defending the use of anal rehydration, what many call torture.
Between the abuses, the things that were not
the unauthorized activities.
The unauthorized, such as the rectal rehydration.
No, stop.
Okay.
All right, that was a medical procedure. That was done because of detainee health, that the people responsible there for the health of these detainees saw that they were becoming dehydrated.
We asked him about his comments.
I mean, even today at Guantanamo, there are people there on hunger strikes, and they're forced to go through forced feeding with a tube put down through their nasal cavity. That's very horrific, too. In the case of several of our detainees, Majid Khan was one of them, we are trying to rehydrate him through a needle, and he was ripping the needles out. He was also not allowing us to put the tube in through the nasal cavity. And so the medical decision that was made at the time is that we will rehydrate him rectally, and that's what was done. Good idea, bad idea, I don't know. It wasn't my idea.
First of all, there's no right to force feed anybody. It's, if you look at doctors' reports and Amnesty, that's an independent medical decision that you can make for your own, just like you can make if I don't want to take extra care or medical care in a hospital. The United States doesn't obey that. So they do force feed people through the tubes through the nose and into the stomach, which we believe are torture, and we brought cases and litigated that question of whether it's torture. We haven't won that yet, but I think it's a form of torture, and it's done purposely to break the hunger strike. People are strapped into a chair, they can't move their heads, they force these two wide tubes down them. People go on for years having that happen to them, but they do attempt through those to break hunger strikes, and they do, whether it's at Guantanamo or in other prisons. Rectal hydration is nothing but torture, and it's done as a part of a series of techniques, whether it's giving you intravenous feeding of gallons of water so you have to urinate and they keep you strapped in a chair so you have to do it on yourself, or whether they give you high temperatures or low temperatures in a cell, or put a dog in front of you, or do sexual humiliation, all kinds of things. And it was one of those that was done. Of course, waterboarding being probably among the worst.
In the next part of this interview, we questioned Hayden about the legality of the Iraq War, NSA surveillance, and much more. Go to therealnews.com for all of our coverage on the George W. Bush Conference. With Jess Lenore, this is Kayla Rivara reporting for The Real News.